Imagine a DNA test so shocking it forces a 911 call. Two extraordinary twins are about to reveal a secret hidden in their genes that will change everything. Sterling and Quillen were born on a wet and stormy night in the small, often overlooked town of Atlantic Falls. Their birth was nothing out of the ordinary at first, two healthy boys, perfectly synchronized in more ways than one, but there was something in the air that night. Something about them seemed different, albeit in ways that no one could quite articulate. Their parents, Clara and Edmund, were middle-class, hard-working types who had never been ones to indulge in superstitions or misplaced fantasies. They raised their twin sons with love, teaching them the value of hard work, integrity, and above all, the importance of kindness. From the very beginning, however, it was clear that Sterling and Quillen were no ordinary children. The connection between them was electric, so much so that even as toddlers they seemed to understand one another without the need for words. It wasn't unusual for Clara to catch them, late at night, sitting in their room whispering to one another in a language that no one else could understand but seemed completely natural to both. Of course, Clara had always joked about them being joined at the soul, referring to their seemingly unbreakable bond, but the older they grew, the more intense this connection became. By the time they reached elementary school, their uncanny bond started to show itself in ways that others couldn't explain. Sterling once walked into the classroom during a test, sweating and breathless, after running for nearly a mile. But when the teacher asked him why he was so late, he simply whispered, "Quillen couldn't find his pencil." And sure enough, Quillen was sitting in the back of the room, lost in thought but patiently waiting for Sterling to arrive before starting his test. As strange as it was, these occurrences were passed off as quirks, childish in nature, and yet, even at that young age, they were beginning to attract the attention of others. But it wasn't just their bond that stood out, it was their uncanny ability to navigate life's challenges. As children, they had faced hardship after hardship, the sudden death of their mother from a car accident when they were just 8, the years spent with an emotionally distant father who struggled to take on the role of both parent, their constant fight against the prejudice that surrounded their mixed-race heritage in a town that wasn't always welcoming to outsiders. Yet through it all, Sterling and Quillen leaned on each other, taking solace in the resilience they had cultivated deep within themselves. They found comfort not only in one another's presence, but in their shared understanding of the world's inherent injustices. Despite their broken family and the hardships they endured, the bond between them only strengthened. They became a unit, unbreakable, powerful, and each other's constant. What they couldn't explain, they soon began to accept. It was as if they were connected by something beyond mere coincidence. It wasn't science, nor was it fate, it was something more profound, wrapped in some mysterious force that surrounded their every move. And though they often asked questions, wondering about the closed doors in their lives, there were never any answers. The days passed slowly, steadily, and yet it was impossible to shake the feeling that everything, every moment, had been leading to something greater. They didn't know what that destiny was. They didn't know that somewhere deep within their blood, they carried the key to unraveling a secret that would reshape their understanding of the world. At the age of 16, when they were preparing to leave for college, Sterling and Quillen made a decision. Deep down, they both knew it was time. Time to find answers. Time to unravel the mystery of their origins. Time to finally confront whatever this powerful connection, this strange force, was. And to do so, they had to begin with one simple, and seemingly harmless, step, a DNA test. Something told them that their answers were buried deep in their genetics. What followed, however, would change their lives forever. 7. In the quiet yet vibrant suburb of Atlantic Falls, fate began its intricate work with the birth of two extraordinary souls. Sterling and Quillen entered the world almost as if destined to share a single, unbreakable bond, one that transcended the ordinary. From the very first moments of their lives, there was an air of mystery surrounding them, a sense that something extraordinary had been woven into the fabric of their existence. Their early days were marked by an inexplicable closeness. Neighbors and family alike noticed that the twins seemed to communicate without words, their glances and subtle gestures hinting at a deep, almost psychic connection. Even as infants, both Sterling and Quillen exhibited a remarkable awareness of their surroundings. Their curious eyes and persistent smiles suggested that they were not just passive observers of life, but active participants in a larger, hidden narrative. Life in Atlantic Falls was both nurturing and challenging. The community, though warm and welcoming, was not without its share of struggles. The twins grew up amidst the whispers of old prejudices and the sting of personal losses that touched many lives in the tight-knit neighborhood. Yet, even as the harsh realities of the world made their presence known, the love of their family and the small, yet persistent dreams that sparkled in their eyes served as a constant source of comfort and strength. It was in these formative years that the seeds of destiny were sown. While other children played carelessly in the streets, Sterling and Quillen absorbed every lesson with an intuitive understanding that belied their age. Their innate resilience and keen insight set them apart, marking the beginning of a journey that promised both trials and triumphs. Even in the midst of early hardships, the promise of a brighter future shone like a guiding light, hinting at the extraordinary legacy that lay hidden in their blood. As the years passed, the bond between Sterling and Quillen only grew stronger, yet their curiosity about their lineage began to stir restless questions. They began to wonder about the truth of their origins, seeking answers to the unspoken mysteries that had always tugged at their hearts. The unusual connection they shared, their almost supernatural instinct, was more than just a deep bond, it felt like a breath from something far beyond the ordinary. It was during a quiet evening that the idea first surfaced. The twins had just turned 15, and something about the air that night beckoned them toward a decision that would change their lives forever. Quillen had always been the more contemplative of the two, his mind often lost in deep thought about things beyond this world. Sterling, on the other hand, was more pragmatic, focusing on the here and now, keeping a firm hand on the present. Yet, tonight, he too felt that undeniable pull urging them forward. After several months of deliberation, they decided to take a DNA test, a gesture that seemed like a simple step toward understanding their roots, yet knew it would lead them down an uncharted, dangerous path. They were unsure of what this decision truly meant but knew that the puzzle pieces of their lives would slip into place once they found the key. The test, designed to grant them clarity about their ancestry, would soon reveal something neither of them could have possibly expected. The following days were filled with anticipation, a quiet, anxious energy swirling between the twins. They knew that this test could answer a question lingering in the back of their minds for as long as they could remember: where did they truly come from? What was the secret nestled within their very DNA? When the results arrived, it seemed as if fate itself had drawn its hand. The findings showed something far more complex than the two had imagined. On paper, it seemed like an ordinary health report, dotted with markers and percentages of descent. But embedded within this analysis was one startling discovery: the twins shared a rare genetic marker, something so unique that it seemed impossible. This marker, they would soon learn, linked them to a lineage that had long been speculated but never proven, one that stretched back to an ancient and powerful group of healers and sages. It was a connection so profound that, with it, came a burden unmatched by anything they had known before. The ramifications were impossible to ignore. They were not just ordinary teens, but the bearers of something far more significant, something powerful, buried deep within the strands of their very being. It was this revelation that set the stage for a reality neither Sterling or Quillen was prepared for. The mysterious marker, both a treasure and a curse, would soon attract unwelcoming eyes, eyes that saw in them not just children, but an ancient power waiting to be unlocked. The journey had truly begun, and neither of them could turn back now. 10. As they entered their teenage years, an insatiable curiosity about their origins began to take root in Sterling and Quillen's hearts. The mysteries whispered by their very existence urged them to delve deeper into the truth of their ancestry. With a mix of excitement and apprehension, the twins decided to take a DNA test, believing that modern science might finally illuminate the enigmatic threads woven into their blood. The anticipation was palpable as they awaited the results. When the long-awaited report finally arrived, it delivered a revelation that far surpassed any ordinary family history. Instead of a conventional blend of ethnic backgrounds, the analysis uncovered an extraordinarily rare genetic marker, one that appeared to be directly linked to an ancient lineage. This lineage, steeped in myth and shrouded in time, was rumored to have produced generations of revered healers and wise individuals whose remarkable abilities had long been lost to the annals of history. This discovery sent ripples of awe and trepidation through the twins' world. It was as if the hidden legacy of generations past had been waiting for this very moment to resurface. The genetic marker wasn't merely a biological quirk, it was a profound symbol of a destiny that might empower them with extraordinary talents. As they pored over old texts and ancestral records, hints of a long-forgotten heritage began to emerge, stories of individuals who possessed not only healing powers but also a wisdom that transcended the ordinary. For Sterling and Quillen, the revelation was both a key and a challenge. It unlocked the door to a heritage filled with potential and promise, yet it also hinted at burdens they were only beginning to comprehend. The discovery stirred within them a profound sense of responsibility. The hidden power in their blood was a gift, but one that might demand great sacrifice. In that moment, the twins realized that their journey was only just beginning, a journey that would intertwine the past with their future, setting them on a path to uncover and perhaps even embrace the legacy that had been etched in their very DNA. Disturbed yet captivated by the discovery of their unique genetic marker, Sterling and Quillen knew they couldn't face this monumental revelation alone. They felt the weight of the knowledge press down upon them, the realization that their lives could never return to the simple, familiar rhythms of before. Desperate for understanding and guidance, the twins sought the counsel of Dr. Drexel, a renowned geneticist with expertise in rare and anomalous genetic markers. Known for his work with extraordinary medical conditions, Dr. Drexel was both a scholar and a practical man, grounded in the scientific world but always ready to venture into the uncharted territories of human possibility. The meeting was set in a quiet, sterile office lined with shelves upon shelves of scientific journals, complicated diagrams, and the faint hum of machines working in the background. Dr. Drexel sat behind his desk, consulting the results from the twins' DNA test with a furrowed brow. As he analyzed the findings, each passing second seemed to make the gravity of the situation clearer. He looked up from the report, his face pale, eyes troubled. This is unlike anything I've ever encountered," Dr. Drexel said, his voice a mixture of awe and concern. "This marker suggests a connection to a lineage that has been lost to history, but there's something far more troubling beneath the surface." Sterling and Quillen exchanged uneasy glances. The doctor continued, speaking with urgency now. "The genetic pattern is consistent with extremely rare mutations that could have profound consequences, both potentially beneficial and dangerously unpredictable," he explained. "This gene, placed in the wrong hands or manipulated, could change the world forever, for better or worse. It could lead to breakthroughs in healing, but it may also be twisted into something malevolent." The twins' stomachs churned with both fear and excitement. They knew their lives were descending into an unknown abyss, but they hadn't anticipated such a stark warning. Dr. Drexel sighed as he folded his hands, and with a grim expression, he reached for his phone. "I've seen enough to understand where this might lead," Dr. Drexel said quietly. "I have to make a call." He dialed 911. "Get ready. Unlike anything you've experienced before, this is just the beginning." 10. After receiving the startling results, Sterling and Quillen were filled with a mix of trepidation and determination. Uncertain of the full implications of the rare genetic marker now running through their veins, the twins sought out the expertise of Dr. Drexel, a distinguished geneticist known for his work with unusual and anomalous cases. Dr. Drexel, whose career had been built on decoding nature's most cryptic messages, examined their test results with meticulous care. As he scrolled through the data, his initial scientific curiosity transformed into a deep-seated concern. He realized that the mutation, while fascinating, carried the potential for danger. It wasn't simply an oddity in the fabric of their DNA, it was a beacon that could attract the attention of forces far more sinister than anyone had imagined. With urgency mounting, Dr. Drexel's mind raced through the possibilities. He recalled ancient legends of healers and seers who once harnessed similar powers, only to have their gifts coveted and corrupted by those with darker ambitions. The genetic marker in Sterling and Quillen wasn't just a historical curiosity, it could be the linchpin for unlocking abilities that, if exploited, might plunge their world into chaos. The weight of this discovery pressed heavily on him, and without a moment's delay, he reached for his phone and dialed 911. His voice, steady yet edged with alarm, conveyed the gravity of the situation to the emergency operator, alerting authorities to a potential crisis that extended far beyond the realm of routine scientific inquiry. As the distant wail of sirens began to echo through the quiet streets, the twins were left to grapple with the stark reality of their situation. They sensed that the discovery was not an isolated incident but the opening act of a far more dangerous drama, one in which every second counted. Dr. Drexel's call was a desperate bid to summon help, to create a barrier against the looming threat that might seek to exploit their unique legacy. In that charged moment, Sterling and Quillen realized that their lives were now inexorably linked to a destiny that was as perilous as it was profound, setting them on a course that would test every ounce of their courage and resolve. Whispers of the twins' astonishing DNA revelation began to echo through both elite scientific circles and the shadowy corridors of the underground. Unbeknownst to Sterling and Quillen, their unique genetic signature had attracted the attention of a secret organization with murky, self-serving ambitions. This group, operating in the periphery of society, saw in the twins not merely an anomaly but a potential catalyst for unprecedented breakthroughs in biotechnology, or perhaps a weapon capable of reshaping global power dynamics. As word spread, subtle yet unmistakable signs of surveillance emerged around the twins. In their everyday routines, whether passing through the familiar streets of Atlantic Falls or spending time at local community spots, they increasingly sensed that unseen eyes were tracking their every move. There were moments when strangers lingered in the background, their presence unnervingly deliberate, as if waiting for the opportune moment to strike. Sterling and Quillen found themselves grappling with a growing paranoia, realizing that the secret encoded in their genes was drawing dangerous forces closer with each passing day. In hushed conversations held in dimly lit corners and through encrypted messages, operatives of the clandestine group began plotting their next moves. They were determined to harness the twins' rare genetic trait for their own gain, regardless of the ethical or moral costs. This new, ominous threat transformed the twins' once predictable world into a landscape fraught with uncertainty and peril. Every step they took was now shadowed by the possibility of betrayal and abduction, and the very notion of safety seemed to dissolve into an ever-deepening mystery. Caught between the promise of a remarkable legacy and the impending danger of exploitation, Sterling and Quillen stood at the crossroads of destiny. The sinister forces that now circled them threatened not only their personal freedom but also the future potential of a genetic heritage that had long been forgotten by time. In the midst of this encroaching darkness, the twins began to understand that their journey was no longer a solitary quest for self-discovery, it had become a battle for control over a power that could alter the fabric of society itself. With the threat of an unknown and powerful organization hunting them, Sterling and Quillen knew they could no longer stay in Atlantic Falls. The safety and security of their once familiar world had crumbled under the weight of their extraordinary discovery. Their every move, everyday interactions, even the simple act of walking to the corner store, felt like a dangerous exposure of their hidden legacy. The twins realized the only way to protect themselves, and perhaps the mysterious power coursing through their veins, was to disappear, to erase all traces of their existence. They packed only what they could carry, as though they were fleeing in an instant, with one simple goal: survival. Their escape wasn't a straight path. Every step taken brought new obstacles, new challenges. They left their home in the dead of night, slipping under the radar, careful not to leave behind any trail. The cramped spaces of forgotten motels, intercity buses, and small towns became their temporary refuge. But no matter where they went, the sense of being watched was never quite gone. There were always shadows, lurked figures where there shouldn't have been, strange cars parked too close for comfort, faces that seemed a little too familiar. Yet, even under the constant threat, their bond as twins remained unshaken. Where one faltered, the other stood strong. In whispered words exchanged in the silence of the night, they shared their fears, doubts, and hopes for a future that seemed increasingly impossible to imagine. Their hearts ached for their lost world, the innocent days. Their childhood home felt like a distant memory now. Every conversation started to feel like it might be their last one, but the one thing they never lost was faith in each other. The looming question on their mind: who was behind the widening net of danger? The organization knew too much, and they were closing in with precision. But why were they so determined to capture two seemingly ordinary individuals? They were only two teens with a bloodline no one had cared about until now. In the chaos and confusion of their escape, the twins were driven by an obsessive thirst for answers, still unaware of the forces that were pushing them forward on a path they couldn't turn back from. Unknown to them, as they voyaged deeper into the unknown, they started attracting the attention of someone who would not be a threat, but an unlikely ally. Detective Brixton, a man whose very career had been built on unraveling the mysteries of powerful forces operating in the shadows, had been tracking the whispers of this organization for years. He had no intention of seeing more lives ruined by those who sought to manipulate power for themselves. At great personal risk, Detective Brixton began to notice patterns in the twins' movement, and with equally cautious steps, he forged an intricate plan, connecting the dots between them and the dark organization. For Sterling and Quillen, it was a matter of urgent survival, but the truth they weren't aware of was that they had already become pegs in a larger, more complex game, a game of power, destruction, and salvation. As they continued the dangerous journey through unfamiliar landscapes, they had no idea that the murky waters of their past would soon reveal an ally in unlikely circumstances, someone willing to fight the forces aligned against them. But for now, they could only move forward with a sense of dread, determination, and an ever-thickening suspicion that they were no longer truly alone. 10. Realizing that their lives now hung by a fragile thread, Sterling and Quillen made the heart-wrenching decision to vanish from the world they once knew. Under the cloak of night, they embarked on a perilous journey through the maze-like streets of forgotten towns and the shadowy back alleys of America. Each step took them further away from the familiar comforts of home, and every mile was steeped in the anxiety of constant pursuit. They moved stealthily from one clandestine safe house to another, relying on whispered directions and the occasional sympathetic stranger who recognized the urgency in their eyes. The long, sleepless nights were filled with tense silences broken only by the distant hum of passing vehicles and the ever-present fear that someone might be watching. The emotional weight of leaving everything behind, friends, memories, and the life they had known, pressed heavily upon them, yet their unwavering bond provided the strength to carry on. In the darkness, every rustle of leaves or flicker of light became a potential threat, intensifying their resolve to remain undetected. Despite the constant tension, the journey was also a crucible for self-discovery. In the isolation of abandoned motels and hidden safe havens, the twins confronted the depths of their fears and unearthed a resilience they had never known. The hardships of the escape revealed an inner fortitude and determination that transcended the terror of their situation. Each narrow escape, every quiet moment of solidarity, reinforced their belief that the peril they faced was a stepping stone toward a future where they could finally claim their own destiny. As they traversed a landscape marked by both physical danger and emotional isolation, Sterling and Quillen learned that the true essence of their flight was not merely survival, it was the forging of a new identity built on courage, unity, and hope. Amidst the perfect chaos of their escape, a flicker of hope emerged in the form of an unexpected ally. As the twins continued to weave their way through the labyrinth of their precarious new world, a knock at the door of their temporary refuge in a quiet, nondescript town changed everything. The visitor introduced himself as Detective Brixton, a law enforcement officer with a reputation for working outside the boundaries of bureaucracy. His eyes, sharp and calculating, offered a flicker of understanding that weighed far beyond anything the twins had encountered. "I know you're running from something," Brixton said, his voice low and reassuring. And I know you didn't start this game. But there's more at play here than just your bloodline. He paused, letting the words reverberate in the small, dimly lit room. I'm here to help. For what felt like an eternity, Sterling and Quillen exchanged unsure glances. There had been so many false promises before. Trust had become an uncertain commodity in their world, and the crushing weight of betrayal loomed just beneath the surface. But something in Brixton's demeanor, in the depth of his unwavering gaze, told them he was different. Slowly, cautiously, they relented and agreed to hear him out. What came next altered the course of their journey exponentially. Brixton was connected to a covert network of individuals who were dedicated to counteracting the very organization that had set its sights on the twins. With limited resources but undeniable conviction, Brixton and his colleagues had been observing the criminal syndicate from the shadows. His group specialized in uncovering and exposing dark schemes, classified government experiments, secret alliances, and most crucially, the shadowy underground players who sought to exploit the power embedded in Sterling and Quillen's DNA. Brixton wasn't the only one working in the dark. There was another ally in their midst, a scientist named Callahan, who had uncovered the origins of the strange genetic marker carried by the twins. Callahan had spent years specializing in ancient genetics and the preservation of forgotten knowledge. His research was deeply entwined with the same lost heritage Sterling and Quillen had discovered through their DNA test. The revelation, Callahan explained, was not simply a matter of chance. The twins were not just inheritors of a rare gene but were perhaps the final descendants of a line of remarkable individuals who possessed unparalleled strength, wisdom, and even a healing touch that could accelerate recovery from illness or injuries. Together, Brixton and Callahan painstakingly peeled back the layers of history, treading carefully as they uncovered more about the genetic legacy that was now entwined with Sterling and Quillen's future. The twins learned that their inherited gift was not a random mutation, nor was it something to be feared. Instead, it was a conduit to an ancient power, an ability to heal both body and mind on a scale humanity had long since forgotten. But as with all powerful forces, there was a price to pay. Those who sought to wield it would inevitably face adversaries determined to harness such power for their own gain. Dr. Callahan's expertise, combined with Brixton's knowledge of the covert networks and dark factions hunting them, uncovered more details about a looming battle. The twins soon understood that the true nature of their legacy had little to do with fame or fortune. It was about restoring lost knowledge, protecting the world from those who would pervert it, and ultimately confronting their destiny head-on. No longer running in fear, Sterling and Quillen's journey had transformed. They were no longer just fleeing from unknown dangers, they were learning to fight back, to understand the depth of their inherited power, and to organize themselves to face what was inevitably coming. The time had come not simply to survive, but to claim their place in the world as guardians of an ancient gift that could either heal the world or be used to destroy it. 24. After weeks of hiding in constant danger, Sterling and Quillen's path took an unexpected turn one chilly evening when a discreet message led them to a quiet, abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of a forgotten town. There, amid shadows and dusty relics of a bygone era, they encountered Detective Brixton, a man with keen eyes and a calm determination forged by years of fighting corruption and the unseen forces that haunted society. Brixton revealed that he had been tracking the clandestine organization responsible for the threats looming over them, and that his investigation had unexpectedly converged with their perilous journey. In the dim light of that secret meeting, another figure emerged, Professor Callahan, an enigmatic scientist whose lifelong study of ancient genetic mysteries had made him a quiet legend among those who dared to explore the boundaries of biology and history. With a measured tone and an air of quiet conviction, he explained that the rare genetic marker found in the twins was far from a curse, it was an ancestral gift, linking them to a lineage of renowned healers and visionaries whose wisdom had long been obscured by time. His research, based on obscure texts and cryptic artifacts, painted a picture of a legacy that could grant extraordinary resilience and the potential for natural healing abilities. As the trio sat around a weathered table strewn with old manuscripts and scattered notes, their combined expertise began to weave together a tapestry of hidden truths. Detective Brixton contributed his knowledge of the organization's covert operations and their relentless pursuit of power, while Professor Callahan provided a scientific framework that reinterpreted the twins' genetic anomaly as a beacon of hope rather than a harbinger of doom. For Sterling and Quillen, each revelation was a stepping stone towards understanding the true nature of their destiny, one that promised not only personal empowerment but also the ability to help a world in desperate need of healing. In that moment of alliance, a cautious optimism took root. The partnership forged in that forgotten warehouse offered a new perspective on their plight. The terrifying forces pursuing them might ultimately be thwarted by the very gifts they sought to exploit. With Brixton's unwavering street wisdom and Callahan's scholarly insights, the twins began to see their future in a different light, a future where the strength of their lineage could be harnessed for the greater good, turning a perilous curse into a profound blessing for all. Sterling and Quillen, under the attentive guidance of Detective Brixton and Professor Callahan, began to train diligently, preparing for the inevitable confrontation that loomed ever closer. Their once insular world, filled with the shadows of danger, now seemed charged with purpose. Each day, they learned how to harness the latent power buried within their blood, a power that, until now, had remained dormant and mysterious. They practiced their physical endurance, tested their limits, and honed the rare skills passed down through their ancestors. Their bond as twins grew even stronger, the connection between them more attuned. As each hour passed, they felt the weight of their heritage settling upon their shoulders, but in the process, they also realized that this legacy wasn't simply a gift or a burden, it was a responsibility. And they were no longer the same frightened, uncertain individuals they had been when they first uncovered their genetic secret. They had transformed into warriors determined to face whatever threats stood before them. As their preparations continued, they found themselves facing an unexpected challenge. They weren't just combating physical danger, but a battle of wits, strategy, and survival. The secret organization that sought to capture them was neither easily deterred or unaware of the twins' growing strength. Agents of the organization launched covert attacks, attempting to destabilize their newfound alliances and weaken their resolve. Yet, for every trap that was set, for every ambush staged, Sterling and Quillen found a way to turn the tables. Their first true test came when a group of agents ambushed them in a remote location, their intentions clear: capture the twins at any cost. The air was thick with tension as the twins, now seasoned in their newfound fighting skills, stood back to back, their senses heightened to a razor's edge. They had been trained by Detective Brixton in the art of evasive tactics, but it was their ancestral heritage, the deep, innate understanding of how to survive under pressure, that guided their movements with precision. The ensuing battle was swift but brutal. The twins fought with every ounce of strength they possessed, tapping into the reserves of energy they never knew they had. What the enemy hadn't anticipated was the level of synchronization their bond allowed. Every move was a perfect reflection of the other, an uncanny harmony that disoriented their attackers. Sterling's quick reflexes perfectly complemented Quillen's strategic foresight, making them a deadly team. By the time the dust settled, the agents lay incapacitated, and Sterling and Quillen stood victorious, but not without consequences. The confrontation had left a scar, both physically and emotionally. They realized how real the stakes were, how every step they took was a step closer to a confrontation with an enemy that might prove too powerful. It was no longer just about survival, it was about facing the truth of what they were becoming. Detective Brixton and Professor Callahan, though relieved, were equally wary. It was clear that the organization's pursuit would only intensify from that point onward. But the twins, stronger than ever, felt a stirring within them, a determination that wouldn't be easily extinguished. With each battle, they grew more certain of their path. The battle for the truth was far from over. And the price of victory was steep, but Sterling and Quillen had crossed a threshold from which there would be no turning back. They had learned to fight not just for their lives, but for the future that awaited them, shaped by their unique gifts and the unbreakable bond they shared. 19. In a decisive moment when the oppressive forces closed in, Sterling and Quillen, together with Detective Brixton and Professor Callahan, resolved to confront the sinister organization head-on. Their plan was meticulously crafted over days of secret meetings and careful surveillance, a strategy designed to unmask the group's covert operations and expose their malevolent intentions. As night fell, the four allies infiltrated a nondescript warehouse that served as the nerve center for the organization's dark pursuits. Within the cavernous space, tension mounted. The dim, flickering lights cast eerie shadows over stacks of confidential documents and high-tech equipment. Sterling and Quillen moved with a shared, silent determination, their unique genetic gifts subtly emerging as they navigated past armed guards and bypassed sophisticated security systems. Brixton's strategic acumen ensured that each step was calculated, while Callahan's deep understanding of the organization's technological network allowed them to disable surveillance systems and unlock secured files. At the climax of the confrontation, the leader of the organization appeared, a figure whose ambition was as palpable as his cruelty. In a charged standoff, he attempted to manipulate the twins by offering them a twisted version of power in exchange for their silence. However, the resolve in their eyes and the unyielding support of their allies transformed the encounter into a battle of truth versus deceit. As tensions escalated into a physical clash, the twins' latent abilities surged forth, destabilizing the leader's forces and leaving him vulnerable to the combined might of their newfound coalition. In the aftermath, as law enforcement units stormed the building to secure the now exposed evidence, the organization's network began to crumble. The once shadowy cabal was dismantled piece by piece, its secrets laid bare for the world to see. Sterling and Quillen, standing amidst the chaos, realized that this battle was more than a personal struggle, it was a pivotal moment in the fight against the exploitation of science and the misuse of heritage. Their victory not only safeguarded their unique legacy but also ignited a beacon of hope, proving that even in the darkest hours, truth and unity can overcome the gravest of adversities. After the fall of the shadowy organization and the tumultuous journey that had brought them to this pivotal moment, Sterling and Quillen returned to Atlantic Falls, their hometown. The quiet streets, which had once seemed so familiar and unassuming, now felt like a sanctuary after everything they had endured. The people of their town, once distant and unaware of the incredible truth lurking in their midst, now looked at the twins with a mixture of awe and gratitude. On the surface, nothing had changed, but in reality, the birth of a new hope had begun to take root. The twins were far from the people they had been when their journey started. No longer bound by the ignorance of their origins or the helplessness that had once marked their lives, they began working with the scientific and medical communities to share the knowledge they had uncovered. Professor Callahan's work on the ancient genetics linked to the twins' rare marker gained a following, and soon, researchers and innovators had begun to study its applications, particularly in the fields of medicine. The extraordinary resilience and healing abilities embedded in their blood could have a transformative effect on the world, or, at the very least, spark a new era of medical breakthroughs. But Sterling and Quillen knew that their victory had been hard-earned and came with its own set of responsibilities. They weren't just part of an extraordinary lineage, they were now at the forefront of a potential revolution in health and healing. They had witnessed firsthand how their unique powers, once feared, could save lives, and they were determined to steward this gift for the benefit of humanity. While the names of those who had conspired against them were now a matter of public record, the victory was bittersweet. They had lost friends along the way, and there were moments when they realized that the burden of their legacy went beyond their own survival. Yet, in the quiet solace of their home, surrounded by the people who had loved them all along, they began to embrace their new role. The gifts they had once seen as a curse now felt like the beginning of something larger than themselves. In the days that followed, Sterling and Quillen took up their new positions with humility, knowing well the dangers of a power unchecked. Their unity remained their greatest strength, for together, the twins understood that their journey would never truly end. The lessons learned from the darkness were the very ones that would light the world. In the delicate balance between their past and future, they began to rebuild the community in ways that uplifted not just those closest to them, but millions more worldwide. The world, once wary of the unknown, now saw the potential for greatness in the most unlikely of places, and Sterling and Quillen knew that with hope, love, and persistence, anything was possible. Their story had only just begun. 16. In the wake of their hard-fought victory, Sterling and Quillen stepped into a future illuminated by hope and possibility. The collapse of the clandestine organization not only liberated them from the shadow of imminent danger but also transformed their identity from fugitives into celebrated heroes. Their journey had been fraught with peril and heartache, yet it culminated in a triumphant rebirth, a moment when the community of Atlantic Falls, once indifferent and fearful, now welcomed them with open arms and a deep sense of gratitude. As the twins re-entered society, they found that their unique genetic heritage had become a symbol of resilience and renewal. Medical researchers, inspired by the miraculous properties embedded in their DNA, worked alongside Sterling and Quillen to unlock secrets that could revolutionize healthcare. Their rare genetic marker, once seen as a potential curse, was now harnessed to develop groundbreaking therapies that offered healing to countless individuals. This collaborative spirit brought together scientists, doctors, and community leaders in a united effort to transform adversity into a catalyst for positive change. The twins, along with Detective Brixton and Professor Callahan, founded an institute dedicated to genetic research and humanitarian efforts. Their mission was clear: to ensure that the legacy of their lineage would continue to benefit society rather than serve as a tool for exploitation. Slowly, as the scars of past battles healed, a sense of optimism permeated every corner of Atlantic Falls. Neighbors celebrated their courage, local media lauded their perseverance, and international interest in their story grew, highlighting the transformative power of unity and compassion. In the soft glow of a new dawn, Sterling and Quillen embraced their destiny, not as victims of circumstance, but as beacons of hope, guiding a world toward a future where science, empathy, and the strength of the human spirit could overcome even the darkest challenges. In my opinion, this story beautifully showcases the power of resilience, unity, and the unyielding pursuit of truth. Sterling and Quillen's journey is not just about discovering the secrets buried in their DNA, but also about understanding the profound impact that our legacy can have on the world. Despite the darkness and danger that continuously surrounded them, they didn't give up. Instead, they embraced their unique heritage and chose to use it for the greater good. Their story highlights a powerful message that even in the face of exploitation and fear, it's our choices, our unity, and our courage that define our future. It's a poignant reminder that the strength of the human spirit has the ability to turn adversity into hope and to bring light to the darkest of times. The ultimate transformation of their story, from fugitives to heroes, is a testament to how persistence, care, and compassion toward others can lead to a better, more enlightened world. 8. I believe this story masterfully illustrates how adversity can be transformed into a powerful force for growth and unity. In the end, the journey of Sterling and Quillen is not just a tale of survival against a relentless darkness, it's a testament to the indomitable strength of the human spirit. Their evolution from vulnerable outcasts into celebrated heroes underscores a timeless truth: our most challenging trials can reveal our deepest capacities for compassion, resilience, and innovation. The narrative reminds us that even in the face of exploitation and fear, the courage to embrace one's unique heritage can ignite profound change, fostering hope and healing in a divided world.